Hello, this is Jeremy from Converse English. Today I'd like to talk to you about the Level 4 speaking exam. The Level 4 speaking exam has three parts. In the first part, you have to give a monologue. The monologue is a lobbying action towards some interest group. You have to try and persuade them to do whatever is on the card. The second part is a discussion with your partner, where you have to discuss at least two of the nominated topics on the card. The third part are questions from the examiner. These questions can be on various topics, with each question standing for an individual topic. Okay, I've prepared for you a little slideshow, and I'm going to talk you now through the different parts of the speaking exam and what we can expect the examiner to be looking for.
The full specifications for the Level 4 exam are available on the Łódź Language Centre's website, which includes specifications for all levels as published by the Polish military's Central Examination Commission. In terms of the time of the exam, including warm-up, the exam takes approximately 29 minutes. Task 1 of the exam is a monologue, where each candidate must try to convince the listener of a particular policy. This is done within the scenario of a lobbyist, where convincing and persuasive arguments must be given. At the end of the monologue, the second candidate must challenge one or 2 points of the talk. Task 2 is a discussion, where the two candidates discuss one central theme and at least 2 of the subtopics given. Here, active listening and reasoned arguments are essential, as well as developed vocabulary. In the final task, the candidates react to the questions of the examiner. It is important to fully develop all answers and choose appropriate vocabulary. In terms of what the examiner is looking for at Level 4, candidates must display a rich variety of speaking mechanisms and the ability to discuss a topic in depth. Both the abstract and hypothetical must be fully used. The exam is in pairs, and so you must listen carefully to your partner and always be prepared to respond to their argument. So, moving on to looking specifically at Task 1. Task 1 is a monologue, where you act on behalf of a lobbying group, speaking in a formal setting to a group of policymakers. The talk lasts between 4 and 5 minutes, and so you must arrange your ideas carefully so as to give a convincing presentation. It is important at the beginning of any public speaking to gain the listener's attention. You can ask rhetorical questions or make a dramatic statement about the current state of affairs. You then need to outline the problem in detail and be ready to give immediately your ready-made solution. Imagine you are a salesman who first shows us that we have a problem and then shows us his product, which will solve this problem. You must predict any hesitancies that people may have and be ready with your arguments to counter them, so as to cover all bases, so to speak. At the end, you must summarize and conclude with a strong final message.
Okay, so now we know what the examiner is looking for. Let's look at the sample Level 4 speaking Part 1. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming. I know your time is precious, and so I will get straight to the point. We have in our society at the moment a criminal epidemic. The level of violent crime is beyond anything we have seen before. Police statistics show us that in the last 5 years, we have had more violent crime than in the previous 20 years. Many of you have put forward motions to change the law. And some of those, I agree, may work. However, what is missing in our debate is the idea of arming our citizens for their self-defense, for the defense of their families. I know that for some of you this will be controversial, and so I would like to talk about a few of the issues. Firstly, the issue of producing more weapons and therefore allowing more weapons into society. We have at the moment a situation where criminals have not only ample weapons, police tell us that there are actually more weapons in the society in terms of illegal weapons than there are actually criminals. Therefore, criminals do not have a problem getting hold of weapons. What is a problem, however, is the law-abiding citizen, the tax-paying citizen, being able to defend themselves. At the moment, they are suspected of being a criminal if they even want or show interest in having their own weapons. In terms of the argument that a weapon could actually increase the likelihood of violence and could lead to more violent crime, we only have to look at examples such as Switzerland in order to see where a country that has weapons in virtually every home does not, in fact, have increased violent crimes. The idea that a criminal will actually be confronted by a law-abiding citizen with a weapon will undoubtedly mean that the criminal will think twice before they do, in fact, carry out their evil and criminal intentions. In terms of the monetary side of it, this policy will, in fact, cost us nothing, whereas the legislation that has been proposed recently, i.e. the idea of increasing custodial sentences, will not only cost us as a society a huge amount in terms of the tax burden that it will place on us, but evidence shows us that this is, in fact, not a substantive deterrent for criminals. Criminals who are career criminals will still carry out violent crime. Can we just fill up the society with prisons? No, we need something that will in fact, deter criminals from their actions. Let me move on to the idea of self-defense. At the moment in our society, we have what I would say is actually a bizarre situation where a criminal committing a violent act will be looked at as a victim if the law-abiding citizen so much as touches them. This needs to end. We need to put legislation in place allowing for the self-defense of law-abiding citizens. These two actions combined, the action of allowing for the legal and registered use of weapons and the legal and honorable use of self-defense, will in fact put the action back in the hands of the law-abiding citizen. At the moment, the criminals have the upper hand. Ladies and gentlemen, as the legislators in our community, I again put it to you. I am calling for 2 amendments to the Constitution. Firstly, the legal possession of weapons by law-abiding citizens, and secondly, the right of self-defense. If these 2 actions are carried out, undoubtedly the levels of violent crime in our society will fall. It is in your hands, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Okay, so now I'd like to break that down and look at a few of the rhetorical devices used during the presentation.
The first device used is an amphora. In rhetoric, an amphora is a rhetorical device that consists of repeating a sequence of words at the beginnings of neighboring clauses, thereby lending them emphasis. The repetition of the phrase violent crime in the opening lines of the speech serves as an amphora.
The level of violent crime is beyond anything we have seen before. Police statistics show us that in the last 5 years, we have had more violent crime than in the previous 20 years.
Rhetorical question. A rhetorical question is one for which the questioner does not expect a direct answer. In many cases, it may be intended to start a discourse or as a means of displaying or emphasizing the speaker's or author's opinion on a topic. The speaker uses a rhetorical question when he asks, "Can we just fill up society with prisons?"
Career criminals will still carry out violent crime. Can we just fill up the society with prisons? No.
The next device used is parallelism. Parallelism is a rhetorical device that compounds words or phrases that have equivalent meanings so as to create a definite pattern. This structure is particularly effective when specifying or enumerating pairs or series of like things.
These two actions combined, the action of allowing for the legal and registered use of weapons and the legal and honorable use of self-defense, will in fact put the action back in the hands of the law-abiding citizen.
A more common device that the speaker used was a metaphor. A metaphor is a figure of speech that directly compares one thing to another for rhetorical effect. The speaker uses the metaphor of putting the action back in the hands of the law-abiding citizen to convey the idea of giving people more control over their safety.
Self-defense will in fact put the action back in the hands of the law-abiding citizen. At the moment, the criminals have the upper hand.
The last rhetorical device we will look at is repetition. This is the simple repeating of a word within a short space of words, with no particular placement of the words to secure emphasis. It is a multilinguistic written or spoken device, frequently used in English and several other languages. The speaker repeats the phrase, "ladies and gentlemen," throughout the speech to address the audience and keep them engaged.
Ladies and gentlemen, as the legislatures in our community will fall, it is in your hands, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Okay, that concludes part 1 of the speaking exam. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on YouTube. Thank you.